Hey everyone, it's Joric. Welcome back. I hope you're doing great wherever you are in the world. A question that gets asked quite often, and when people send me emails asking for information about Portugal, a question that they want to have answered or get some advice on is, should we rent or should we buy when we're moving to Portugal? And I'm going to try to go through the answers I give, and hopefully, this is more straightforward and makes sense to people on maybe the whys or what goes into why someone would rent versus buy or vice versa. I will say over the last 6, 7 years, a few more people every year are choosing to buy as opposed to rent. And there are dozens of people each year that have been renting as immigrants and expats that are now, okay, we're going to buy something. So let me give you some ideas on maybe why renting makes sense. So first off, you need to get a rental contract for at least a year to satisfy the visa. Okay, just need to find someplace. The biggest reason why I think it makes sense to rent is because you don't know what your long-term plan is. You may move to Lisbon and in a year hate it and go, but we love Portugal, but we want to move someplace else, or we want to move to Madeira, or we want to move to Coimbra. That could be the case, and I think very often people that move to Portugal, where they originally had their heart set, often they move to a different town or a different area because they like something else over time. That to me is the number one reason why I would rent and not buy a property, because buying locks you into a particular place and you don't want to have that happen. The other reason for renting is often just from a financial standpoint. You from an expense, all right, here's what I know what I'm paying every month. The landlord's going to take care of issues with the property. So I kind of have, if I'm on a fixed budget, which many people going there will be, they'll be on a D7, you'll be on a kind of retirees and pensioners. So that's another good or pro for renting. The overwhelming majority of immigrants that move to Portugal rent over buy. That's not a reason to do it. It's just most people end up renting over buying. But that is, for me, why renting makes so much sense. Is you don't know what your long-term goal is, and you may change your location on where you're living in Portugal, so you don't want to be tied to a place that it might be hard to sell or take a long time for you to be able to do that. So then I'm going to switch over to why buying might make sense. Now, we bought and we sold. I will say buying was fairly straightforward. Selling was a pain in the butt, and it took a lot longer, months longer than we thought, which that's another video down the road. But just historically, we preferred to buy a property versus rent from someone, and we felt that way living overseas as well. For me, I guess the number one reason for buying is that if you're committed to Portugal and you're committed to the place you're going to live, the region or the city or municipality, and you know that, then buy. And you go, okay, you're already thinking this is a long-term thing. This is where I'm going to retire to. These are where my remaining days will be. Or let's say the next 5 to 10 years for sure are going to be here. Then buying makes a whole lot of sense, in my opinion. But you could obviously disagree with that. That to me is the number one reason that goes into it. Also, sometimes the price of property, I'll say that as a second pro for buying, is that rental properties in many areas are, I think, inflated as far as how much people want, and it's supply and demand. So people can get whatever they can, and more power to them. But often you might say, well, gosh, if I got to overpay for rent, I might as well just buy a property, and that way I'm paying myself, so to speak, rent. You're paying a mortgage company, or maybe you buy something outright. But it might be a better situation than having to, pay someone else rent on something, just because the prices keep continuing to trend upwards. People have been waiting and been predicting for years now the market's going to crash in Portugal's real estate, and it just hasn't happened. I don't foresee it's going to happen anytime soon or any year soon. but it may be cheaper, like the mortgage is cheaper than paying rent, more affordable on a monthly basis. So when you're figuring out your finances and what you're willing to work with, buying might be a better option for you there. But it's really, to me, it all boils down to what is your long term view on your time in Portugal? Are you going to Portugal with the mindset of I'm going to be there for the rest of my life? Then that may weigh what you do, and also your age. Where are you in the rest of your life? Are you in your 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s or 80s? That may play into it. Is Portugal the temporary home? It's the first of many stops for the rest of your life, and maybe you're going there. Often immigrants go to get the second passport, and then they bolt to another country. So you may weigh what makes better sense, renting or buying, because of that. You may not want to get tied down in something if you know, well, in 5 to 7 years I'm going to be moving, or you might be able to make enough to when you buy something and sell it in 5 to 7 years, it was worth the investment to you versus renting. That's your long-term vision and your long-term goal for Portugal. To me, is what is the deciding factor. Again, now we lived there for 5 years and we left. The goal was that we were going to most likely stay longer, certainly go through, try to get citizenship, get the second passport. So that was what we went into it with. But for you, it really depends. But I do think you have to think through how long you think you're going to be in Portugal, and have that be kind of your barometer or your true north as to what your thoughts will be on whether you'll rent or buy. I'm going to leave you with a practical tip. If you're getting to Portugal, and even if you say you're committed but you're going through the immigration process, and again you just need a 1 year lease, it may be worth just renting for the time being. Often that's what most people end up doing. They rent for the time being because it takes you 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years or more until you find a part of Portugal that you really love. You may love Lisbon, but then you find you really love Sintra, or Peniche, or Setúbal, or Sesimbra, or something like that. Or you move out and you like Terceira in the Azores, or you like Lagos in the Algarve. So by renting, it gives you flexibility, whereas buying kind of leaves you more landlocked in that property for a longer period of time to be able to get out of it. But I hope this video helps. People keep asking me about renting or buying. I know I've made a video or two in the past, but I wanted to make an updated video just with my thoughts from spending 5 years there and owning a property, and also looking at hundreds of rentals too. Give you my take, and I hope my 2 cents will help you as you're adding cents to the bucket to figure out what's the best option for you when you move to Portugal. Please comment below too if you made it this far in the video. Have you bought? What was your experience, good, bad, or otherwise? Would love to hear from you. As always, thank you so much for watching, and enjoy your travels.